Dun 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 dun! Guess what? Yes, another DJI firmware update. Now, it was about a week and, 8-9 days ago that I had to update the firmware on the DJI Mavic. Now, there's a new firmware update on the DJI Spark. So, of course, you got to take it up, see what they did, because on my phone, now I use iOS. I've got an Apple iPhone 7 Plus. The changelog said 0, didn't say anything. I'm going to have to research a little bit online to see what exactly the changes were, but we're going to see, did it affect the Spark in a good way or in a bad way? And that's coming right up. And before we get into the firmware for the DJI Spark, just a quick reminder, the dash cam giveaway is taking place next week, Tuesday, on July 31st. Put a link to that video right up here. Now please do not comment in this video. In that video, and comment hashtag enter. That's it, hashtag enter, but not in this video. Do it in that video, because the dash cam giveaway of the Old Shark dash cam is coming up. It's another week away and it's worldwide. But let's talk about the DJI Spark for a second. Now, it was about 8-9 days ago I had to update the DJI Mavic Pro. I was a little skeptical about it. I already talked about that, did a video about it, and I was quite surprised with the image quality. Seemed very nice. The colors seemed very nice. The lag that I was having on my phone, the video lag from the previous firmware, is now gone because it was really choppy and going in and out. Now that's gone. I still have not had an opportunity to do the distance test. I will do that distance test hopefully in the next week. I'm trying to get everything squared away to where I've got all the approval that I need. So, I mean, it's 3 miles stretch of land, so I've got more than enough room to fly that guy out, fly it back, and if it doesn't make it back, that's okay, because it's short grass field, nice flat plane, so it'll just land wherever it is and I'll be able to find it. But let's talk about the DJI Spark and this new firmware. There's no information in the change log on my phone when I did the update for the DJI Spark on what this firmware is about, but I'm going to take a look online real quick and see if I can find anything regarding the firmware and the change log. But I went ahead, did the update, and took it up, flew it out real quick, and I got it out to 1,400 feet out, and I was cruising about 263 feet in altitude, and I had no problems with signal. I had no problems with the video. Nothing was lagging. The only thing that I found was that the satellite connection was a little bit slower for it to gather up all the satellites and for it to be ready to fly on GPS mode. Normally it takes about a minute and a half for it to start locking in all the satellites. This time it took about 3.5 minutes for it to lock on the satellites, and all of a sudden it went from 8 satellites that it was not ready yet, and then boom, it was 15 satellites and it was ready to go. But that's the only thing that I noticed. But let's take a look at some of the footage and then we'll talk about some more stuff with the DJI Spark and things I noticed. So what do I think about the new firmware for the DJI Spark? I like it. I think it's pretty darn good. I like the color. I like the saturation. I like the sharpness. Now keep in mind it is only 1080p, and I know a lot of people are just like, man, it's not 4K. One thing that I would like, if it's at all possible, DJI, if you can implement this. Now I know that the sensor is only good for 1080p, and that's fine. Could you increase the frame rate a little bit? Is there a possibility that your chipset for the Spark could do maybe 60 frames per second? If it could, I think that'd be a really cool thing for the DJI Spark owners. Although I think with all the rumors with the new Mavic 2 series, and if you noticed in, I don't have a picture of it, but if you look online and you see some of the new Mavic Pro, the prototype pictures that are out, you'll see a Spark in the background. And it makes me think that the Spark is going to have DJI Spark 2 coming out, which may offer, if I was to venture to say, what would they do with the Spark so that it's not direct competition with the DJI Mavic Pro? I would say give the Spark 2K footage or 2.5 or even 2.7 like the Phantom 3 has at 30 frames a second and 1080p at 60. I think that's a possibility. I really do. That way you have a little bit more than the original Spark. Not as much as what you would get with the Mavic Pro. So it's a nice little balance in between. I could see the Spark probably going from $399 to $499 for the Spark 2. But then again, that's all speculation right now. We don't know what's going to happen. You know, it was supposed to be, I think, on the 16th of July that, I'm looking up at the calendar. I think it was the 16th of July that they were supposed to announce or make this big announcement, and then that got held back. Who knows what's in store, but there's going to be some new stuff in store. What it is, I don't know. But do I like the firmware? Yeah, I mean, like I said, there was no lag on the phone. I got nice distance with it, and what I'll do is when I take the Mavic Pro out to do the distance test on this .0400 firmware on the Mavic Pro, I'm going to take the Spark with me also and just do a little distance test just for giggles. Let's see how far it'll go. And I've got an OTG cable, and it's funny because when I bought the OTG cable, right after I bought it, they said there was a new firmware for the Spark that you could no longer use the OTG. And so I never even bothered. But I'm going to do some experiments to see, can I still use the OTG cable? By the way, if you do have a DJI Spark and you are using the OTG cable, post down in the comment section below. Tell me, how's it working for you with this new firmware or on the previous firmware? Is there a certain method? Because that's something I don't know. Is there a certain way that you have to fire up the remote, start the app, start the drone, then plug in the OTG cable? How does all that work? Because I'm kind of curious. So if you're experiencing that, comment below. I'll put a link to the DJI Spark below if you don't have one. And you're looking for an entry-level drone, not a toy drone, even though this little dude, it is very small. But when you think about the technology that goes into this with the forward-facing sensors, GPS, 2-axis gimbal, which works very well in my opinion, I don't think it's a toy. I think it's consumer grade. Not a toy, not professional. DJI Mavic Pro. If you're not a subscriber, why don't you go ahead and subscribe today. Talk to you later. Bye. I'm going to be pissed off if none of that recorded. It's possible. If it didn't record, I'm going to be mad.